Welcome to Voices of Care, real stories to inspire, uplift, and unite caregivers, with Maggie Linton and Carl Powell. Enjoy the conversation.
Welcome to Voices of Care. My name is Carl. I'm here with Maggie and Maura. Maggie and Maura, that sounds really nice. And we're going to be talking about caregiving. And Maura is going to be in the Voices of Care book. So, Maura, welcome. And Maggie, welcome. And let's start the conversation.
Okay.
All right. Mara, give us a little background about you and how you and Carl met.
Oh, goodness,
I
Lord
want to
Jesus.
start there.
Been in fitness since 1982. I met Carl through a young lady by the name of Angie Bunch, who's just an incredible choreographer. She used to dance for Disney. And that's how I met Carl. And Carl and I have presented a couple of different workshops, seminars together. And I absolutely adore everything about him. I've been with him since his crazy days, his blonde hair, the whole nine. Absolutely adore him.
who, who had blonde hair?
Blonde hair to no hair is what that is now, you know? But you're still going. But part of the
Yes.
reason why you're here is because of your lovely mom, whom I also got to know. And let's talk about Ms. Juanita. All right.
Okay. Well, she was a feisty thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she's a very feisty thing. She was a master of everything. She was a cook, she was a cleaner, she was a hard worker. She was a financial literacy. Oh my God. This woman owned 7 homes in her life. Um,
Wow.
yeah, she's just an amazing individual. Um, she taught me how to sew when I was 7 years old. She taught me how to crochet when I was 7 years old. So I was actually instrumental in the down payment of her first home, which was in Compton, California, because she would call me from her job and tell me, baby, I need you to make a poncho and a skirt set. And before she got home, it was done. So it might have been 4 or 5 hours later, but it was done. And I think she sold it for $75 for the set. But um, I never got paid for it. But I didn't expect to because it was something I was doing for my mom. But she bought the yarn. But always say I was instrumental in, child slavery, to help her with her down payment of her first home. She had 3 children. She'd been married twice. She grew up, well, she was born in Carbon Hill, Alabama, but grew up in East St. Louis. And she been sewing and making things since forever. Since I think she was like 14, 15 years old. She used to sew all of our clothes, including some very well made suits that you've heard my brother talk about. Suede suits with the bow tie and whole 9 yards with ruffles going down it. She used to sew everything for me since I was the only girl. She used to sew my undergarments, which I absolutely hated. We'd beg her. We would beg her to take us to Kmart to go shopping because that's what all of our friends went for back to school. We never went to a Kmart until I was grown. So, a, a little bit about Miss Juanita. She was just everything. She was my best friend. Um, and a mother daughter relationship is difficult. It's totally different than a son and mom relationship because with me being the only girl, my mom wanted me to do things that she thought I should do. She wanted me to live with her my whole entire life. Never get married, never have children, but I had a different path than what she wanted. But that's a little bit about Miss Juanita Smith, but she was just an incredible woman, very giving. She would give you the shirt off of her back. Just a very giving person.
The one thing I have to say, having met you and John both, is she raised you to be strong individuals and to
Yes.
understand that nobody was going to give you anything, that you had to prepare yourself for taking care of yourself.
Yes. Yes, that was her. Yep, that was her. And
Yeah.
she prepared us well, all 3 of us.
Mhm.
My oldest brother, he's in the he was in the military. He retired from the military. He's in Hawaii. My
Oh,
oldest brother, I mean my baby brother, is all over
yeah.
the place. And then
On the front
me,
cover of U.S. News and World Report this week. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
But she also taught you financial literacy, which is in a quiet sort of way, without beating you up about it. You understood the value of a dollar.
yes, yes, yes. Oh goodness. Yeah, she would I was the dancer in the family, and I think that's how I got into fitness. She would always entertain her and my dad at the time. They would always entertain on Friday evenings, whether it was a card party or whatever the case. And since I was the only girl and the outgoing one out of the three of us, she would pay me a quarter to dance. So I would make my money dancing. It wasn't twerking back then. It was just regular dancing to entertain her to entertain her company.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well,
She
let's
said,
talk about, yeah, your mom, like you said, was so strong for so long, but then you began to see the signs of her decline. I'll put it that way. She
yes,
still dressed sharp though. She was cleaner
yes.
than the Board of Health, always.
Mother's Day 2019. Well, actually, a couple of days before Mother's Day 2019, I talked to my mom every single day. She was living in Atlanta. I was living here in Houston. And when I talked to her, she just didn't sound right. And she had said something that had concerned me with safety. She was saying all these people had keys to her apartment. And that just really concerned me. So I took a flight. I booked myself on a flight because I had to go check on my girl to see what was going on because she wasn't telling me, she wasn't giving me enough information. And when I got there, I started seeing things that really concerned me. You know, her refrigerator was bare. I'm like, Mom, what are you eating? She's like, I go down and eat what they serve. And then when I looked at the menu and I saw the quality of the food, you know, sodium was 300 milligrams for this, 600 milligrams for that. I'm like, Mom, you have high blood pressure. You shouldn't be consuming that much salt. And then all the sugar that they were giving her, it just wasn't good quality food. So, anyway, I kept seeing signs. And then when we went to my brother and sister in law's place for Mother's Day, we were watching a movie and it was just so many things that were bothering me. You know, she was shaking. I didn't know why she was shaking. Because no one had diagnosed her with anything. So later on that day, I had taken her out shopping and she was always tired. I'm like, Mom, why are you so tired? And she's like, this what happens when you get old. And she, you know, I noticed she was walking on one leg and not the other. So we would take breaks. So anyway, later on that day, I was getting ready to pack to go home, and she's like, I would like to go with you. I'd actually invited her to come back, you know, for a week to visit with us, me and my fiance at the time. He's my husband now. And she, you know, she hurried up. We packed her up and she came on there on with us. And then when she was here, probably about 6 days later, I really start seeing some things, you know, the drooling of the mouth, the shaking of the hands. It's just too many things going on. So I made an appointment the next day to take her to her old physician because she used to live here. And when I took her to the physician did some things, but when he took her blood pressure, it was like 201 over 101.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's like, I need you to immediately take her to the ER. So when I took her to ER, they immediately admitted her. Now, it was also the time of COVID, so they didn't want me to come in. Now, I'm a little spunky thing. If
Oh yeah.
anybody know anything about me, you know
Don't
I'm a
tell me
biter.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell me I can't go in with my mom. I saw how scared she was, you know, tears coming out of her eyes. And, you know, she's saying that it was because of dry eyes. I know my mom. So, anyway, I talked to the supervisor and they let me go in with her. They ended up admitting her after they did the EKG, the blood work, the whole nine, chest x ray, the whole 9 yards. And when they said she needs to stay overnight, she looked at me like, Mom, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay right here with you. So I told her, just give me about an hour or two. I went and got me some things from the store because I didn't have a toothbrush, didn't have toothpaste, didn't have, you know, all the essentials I needed.
The essentials, yeah.
So I asked the nurse, all I need is a pillow and a blanket. That's it. It was a little sofa. Wasn't a sofa. It was a chair that I made into a sofa because I draped my legs over it with another chair. And I stayed there with my mom. It was no way I was going to leave her there. But then when they released her, they were saying that, you know, I need to take her to a neurologist because of the shaking, if they called it tremors at the time, which I later found out, which was Parkinson. But
Hmm.
it was just too many things. So I ended up, she actually asked me if she could stay with us. So I asked my fiance, and before I could finish getting the sentence out, he's like, yeah. So that created a little bit of a rift between myself and my brothers because they thought I was doing a little bit too much, but I was not going to let my mom go down that road by herself. So that's how it became me being her caregiver. And she stayed with us probably for about 7 months, 8 months. And it was hard because she wanted more of me than what I could provide for her. She wanted me to retire from the airline at the industry at the time I was flying, and I was okay with that. But then when, she wanted me to sit with her 24 hours a day. I still had a life. I had a fiance, I had a son, I had grandchildren, but I was so tied in, it just made it really difficult. But it lasted for about 7 months. And if somebody asked me, Mar, would you do it all over again? I would definitely do it all over again because I know I saved her life.
Right, right. But she lived a lot longer after that.
Yeah.
But you nursed her back to health.
Yes. I was cooking for her 3 times a day. She would talk about my food because I'm a health person.
Hmm.
I don't like that dry. Why don't you put some real butter up in there, and why don't you put some lard up in there, Mom? We don't eat pork. Well, why don't you fry some catfish, Mom? We don't fry food. We eat turkey, chicken, and fish. That's it. We don't do regular milk. We do soy milk, but it has to be organic soy milk. So she got used to the bless you. She got used to the way I was cooking and started really enjoying it until she wanted more. And then it's like, this food is nasty. Mom, there ain't nothing wrong with that food. But then later on, I would see her sneaking in the kitchen to get that nasty food with a big old plate full and taking it back up to her room.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That yeah, again, that caretaker role, it was a total disruption, as it is for so many people. I know you were on your knees praying every night. Give me
I
strength.
was. I'd reach out to her best girlfriend in Atlanta, and Mom didn't have a lot of women that she was really close to. She had associates, but she didn't really have friends. So she had a friend in Atlanta, and I reached out to her because she was a nurse. And it's like, I can't figure out what's going on with Mom. I think she had a stroke a couple of years ago, and that would make sense as to what's going on. I had to get uh, breathing treatments for her, a nebulizer. I didn't even know what that was. I had to learn how to clean it. I had to learn how to do, her take her blood pressure 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner after she ate. I was keeping a journal. I was a full-time nurse. But the thing that really bothered me, Maggie and Carl, is nobody ever asked me how I was. Never. Never. I would cry at night. My fiance, would be there for me, but no one ever asked me how I was.
Mm,
But
mm,
it's tough to see your parent in that kind of position. I had to bathe her, comb her hair, the whole everything because she couldn't step into the tub, and I was so afraid that she was going to fall because she lost her balance.
right.
Um, yeah, but what ended up taking her out? She had fallen like 4 times in 2023, and when they took her to the hospital, it was well, both of them. When both of them took them to the hospital, I think it was 12 o'clock at night. She lasted until about 3 that morning, and then she took her final breath with them there and went on to the heavenly gates.
Right. Mm,
But she's in a much better place. She would not have wanted to live her. Anybody that know my mom knows she's a proud woman. She doesn't like to be taken care of. She's a very independent. She liked to do her own things. And for her to actually have to ask me to give her a bath or to wash her hair, that was hard for her. But she only had to ask me once. And after that, it's like, Mom, come on, girl, come on in here. Let me wash your hair.
yeah, yeah, yeah. She was an independent spirit and believed in that. And you know, that's what I'm glad I didn't see her in those final declines because every time I saw her, she was always still moving around and laughing and talking with a few people and sit at the table and make little comments off to the side.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's what
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, she was funny.
Well,
And that laugh, if you ever heard her laugh, I called her cackling. But if you
mhm.
ever heard her laugh, it would just touch you from your toes all the way up and make you want to laugh. She just was an amazing woman. And it's so much of me so much of her in me that I didn't realize. But now I wake up every morning and I see her up in